Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans, was for some reason on State of the Union with Jake Tapper. Now, I guess the reason is he had a new book out. So, of course, whenever one of these establishment figures have a new book out, all the shows have him on. They all talk to him. He was just on Bill Maher as well. And they do the rounds to sell his book. But now, apparently, he's also running for president, even though he's saying he's not running for president. Just, you know the drill. And it was the same thing on CNN. Now, I could criticize Mitch Landrieu, but that's whatever. What I really want to focus on here is Jake Tapper's lack of proper questioning of Mitch Landrieu's radical centrism. Watch.
After fellow possible 2020 candidates Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, others called on ICE to be abolished and replaced, Senator Sanders came out on Twitter and said he now wants ICE to be abolished too. You've said you don't want ICE to be abolished, even though you think there need to be reforms in immigration. Are you concerned at all about your party, as critics say, lurching to the left?
Well, first of all, I don't speak for the National Democratic Party. As you know, I was the mayor of the city of New Orleans. So having said that, I have always talked about governing from the middle. I'm what they call a radical centrist. There are not many of us left anymore. And yeah, it is really important for us to make sure that if we are given the responsibility to govern, that we govern in a pragmatic way, in a big tent way that makes sense. I don't think abolishing ICE is a good idea, primarily because when police departments get out of the way, do the wrong thing, or governed in the wrong way, you don't say get rid of the police department, you reform the police department. We are, in fact, a nation of immigrants. We know that. We're also a nation of laws. And I do think that Congress has been remiss in not passing comprehensive immigration reform. But it does have to be common sense. It has to be thoughtful. It has to protect the border while at the same time making sure that everybody is dealt with in a constitutional way. I do believe very clearly that separating families from children was not a smart thing. It was a cruel thing. That really is not who we are, and there's a much better way to do that.
As a centrist, as somebody who believes in governing from the center, are you concerned to see the Democratic Party, which you and your family have been proud members of for generations, going to the left on a lot of these issues?
Well, I think that what you'll see this with the Republicans and the Democrat. It happens every election cycle. The party themselves will get tested from the left, the middle, and the right. Both parties are going to do that. And of course, that's going to happen to the Democratic Party, too. It's clear that President Trump is going to be the nominee of the Republican Party, and you will see a family fight on the Democratic side. And you see the party getting pulled to the left. You'll have people from the middle. You have people to the right of the party, and that's the way it's always going to be. If the Democrats want to win, they're going to have to govern responsibly. They're going to have to govern with common sense. They're going to have to think about what people in America want, which is essentially to have a great opportunity and great responsibility and a better chance for themselves and for their kids.
How much longer do myself and other progressive people, other YouTubers, other tweeters, other writers have to discuss how this entire talking point, this entire centrism rhetoric is just complete bullshit? Now, I guess before I get to Tapper, let me just touch on something that Landrieu said here. So, I'm a radical centrist. Not many of us left anymore. Not many of you left anymore. Essentially, the entire Democratic Party are people that are moderates, radical centrists. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. And then you even have people like Joe Manchin who might as well be Republican. So this is the idea that there's no representation for radical centrism in the Democratic Party is complete bullshit. Now, if he's talking about voters, well, then he's actually right about something. There aren't radical centrist voters, at least in terms of what he thinks as somebody in the center. So what he thinks as someone in the center is, somebody in between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. But the actual center of the country is where people are on the policies. So if you look at polling on Medicare for All, the majority of people support Medicare for All. If you look at polling on higher taxes for multinational corporations and the wealthy, the majority of people support that. The majority of people support tuition-free college. The majority of people support getting money out of politics. So these are all moderate positions in terms of how the voters view these policies in the U.S. But now, when you look at the Democratic Party, they don't reflect that. The Democratic Party is to the right of the majority of Americans on the policies. Yet, we continue to see this discussion in the mainstream news about how being pragmatic, radical centrism, working with Republicans on policies, even though the Republican Party is so far to the right that working with them on anything means that you are literally governing on the right side, doesn't it just I don't understand how people have not woken up to this. And a lot of it falls on people like Jake Tapper who don't question it. So Jake Tapper, instead of acknowledging or recognizing and saying that, hey, you say you're a radical centrist, well, Hillary Clinton, she campaigned as a radical centrist. She campaigned as pragmatic as everything you're saying, and she lost to Donald Trump. Now, because she lost with that strategy, doesn't that tell you that maybe that isn't the way to go? Maybe people are looking for actual progressive policies. Maybe the people that you consider to be on the left are actually correct, and that is the majority of people. But a lot of people are disenfranchised. A lot of people don't feel like they want to go out and vote because they don't feel excited by the candidates being put up. That should be the questioning from Jake Tapper. But instead, the questions are you concerned to see the party going to the left? The typical neoliberal bullshit. There is no, Jake Tapper, I assume he does research. I assume he reads things outside of his own bubble, but maybe he doesn't, because he should be able to recognize that the American people support progressive policies. The majority of them support progressive policies, and that radical centrists have lost. The Democratic Party has lost 1,000 seats over 8 years, while Obama was being being a moderate, was trying to work with Republicans, while Obama pushed Obamacare, a Republican, a conservative healthcare system, a private insurance-based healthcare system. No questions about it. Jake Tapper is not questioning anything, does not realize that Obama was doing more than enough. The issue with Obama here is he came to the table with the compromise. Instead of working from the left and maybe finding compromise in the middle, maybe a public option. Now look, I think most people, as a Canadian, I don't think you should be happy with just a public option. But that would at least have been better than what Obamacare is. But because Obama came to the table with the compromise, you didn't even get that. They still got Republicans fighting them on Obamacare, even though Obamacare was a conservative policy. So there was no questioning of any of this. And it continues even after the loss in 2016. You'd think a massive loss to Donald Trump like that would wake you up, would at the very least, if not the Democratic Party, because there is, power in place trying to control things, at least someone like Jake Tapper, who, for the most part, appears to be an independent thinker. But again, we also have to recognize that he operates under this corporate structure where he's incentivized to continue this bullshit narrative. So a clip like this is just in addition to all the clips that are just like this one. So there was Trevor Noah on The Daily Show interviewing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a clip I didn't get to cover last week, where it was the exact same line of questioning, where it's all about, aren't you afraid, like you're going too far to the left, center, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for Medicare for all? Like, just, I don't understand how these people don't look outside their own bubble. I look outside my own bubble. I read centrist thinking. I watch shit like CNN. I know what these people are thinking. Do they not question anything that they are telling each other? It's just unbelievable. And Jake Tapper, while he's had his moments of being strong in, there's been clips I've seen of him. I can't think of one now, but I know there's been a clip or two where Jake Tapper has had a strong line of questioning. This was not one of them.